this episode, The Budding Watch Enthusiast. Here on The Budding Watch Enthusiast, I make videos around wristwatch discussions and reviews from the perspective of a person who hasn't been collecting that long, so if you do enjoy the content and you're new here, please consider subscribing. I did a video a little more than a year ago in the early days of the channel where I was talking about next step watches. Watches that are kind of the next watch to go to once you've already gotten into the entry level and you're looking to buy your first really nice watch without absolutely killing the bank. Now, the perspective that I did that video from was from my own perspective of choosing my first next step watch and what that was going to be. But it's a topic of conversation that I wanted to definitely revisit and update in the future. And so we're going to do that today. Unlike the last video, I'm not going to focus on 4 specific watches, but rather 4 specific watch brands that I think that you should check out if you're looking to buy your first really nice watch. Now, helping inform this list this time around is my own personal experiences with these watch brands and with lots of watches that they offer. I actually own watches from all 4 brands that we're gonna talk about on the list today. And for the most part, I really, with this list, wanted to go with brands that have a proven track record, a proven history of reliability, that have a lot of different options available for you. There is one exception to that. It's going to be the first one on the list, but I will try to explain why that watch company is on the list. But the other brands on the list are brands that have been around for a bit of time and have a proven track record at this point. Before we get into the video, the watch that I'm wearing today is the NTH Nakin Renegade. If you haven't seen my review on this, I'll link it in the description down below and put it on a card as well. And like I said, if you are interested in this, I know WatchGauge is the US retailer. I think Page & Cooper is the UK retailer. And then there's a few other exclusive retailers around the world that do carry these NTH subs. Now, I will also tell you guys that on this list, I'm aiming for a price point around between $500 and $1,000. I think it's a good price range, to make that next step up, basically. For some of these watches, the new versions will go more towards the high end. If you're willing to go pre-owned or gray market, a lot of these watches you can snag for in that $500 range, or in a lot of cases, even lower than that. So without further ado, let us get into the list. So at number 4 of the brands that I would recommend checking out to make your first next step watch purchase is going to be Notice. Now, Notice is the one that's kind of the outlier on the list. They haven't been around that long. Notice is a micro brand company. They also don't have a ton of watch models available. There's only 3 watch models available on their website: the Retrospect, which is a vintage style dive watch, the Avalon, which is a little bit more modern style diver, and the Contrail, which is a pilot's watch. So what Notice lacks in track record and heritage, they make up for it in quality and just kind of an obsessive dedication to their craft. One of the things that I really like about Notice is they kind of really are transparent, both about their design process and about the assembly process. The company is run by 2 brothers, Wes and Cullen, out in Los Angeles, and they are extremely dedicated to providing the best quality watches that you can get from a micro brand. I have the Notice Avalon. It's something that I've really been impressed with so far. I haven't yet filmed a review of it yet as of the recording of this video, but that is something that is coming soon. I've seen all of their watches hands-on. The Contrail is really impressive, again, for a pilot's watch that has kind of the poor man's GMT, the 12-hour timing bezel, but they actually made a legitimate GMT bezel and not just a dive bezel that happens to have a GMT functionality. That's something that's really appreciated. And you get a really good value based on the price of these watches. The Retrospect, which is their vintage diver, is around $400. Both the Avalon and the Contrail come in at around $600. Again, Notice is a company that I haven't had a ton of hands-on time with outside of the Avalon, but everything that I've seen of them so far is really impressive and I think a really safe bet to put your money into. So again, I'm prospecting a little bit, and you guys can weigh that as you need in order to evaluate their position on this list. But for my money, Notice definitely deserves to be on here, and that's why they are number 4. So for number 3, again, if you're a longtime fan of the channel, no surprise to find this company on the list, and that is Christopher Ward. Now again, I just talked about how Notice delivers terrific value for money, and I think Christopher Ward definitely sits in that same camp. With Christopher Ward, you're getting sort of a micro brand feel in terms of design and in terms of being able to kind of pass the savings on to the customer. But there's also just a ton of options for Christopher Ward. You have the Trident line, which is their probably their most notable line, which is all of their dive watches. If you're looking for more of a dress watch, the Malvern line is definitely what you can check out from them as well. They also have a variety of different aviation and motorsport watches. Now, the cool thing with Christopher Ward is that, again, you have a lot of different options and you have a lot of flexibility on price. If you wanted to buy new, if you wanted to get a quartz version of some of these watches, you can definitely come in under $500. You're getting the same really nice cases that they put out. You're getting the same great design. Obviously, just with the quartz movement, helps bring the price down. If you wanted mechanical, you're probably going to be looking more in that closer to $1,000 range. Though if you can find them pre-owned, oftentimes that's a great way to get a deal. I know as of filming this video, the Mark III Trident divers just came out, so you might find some folks that are looking to get rid of their Mark IIs, for example. And again, just Christopher Ward really impresses me with their finishing, with their attention to detail, and just with a lot of the designs of the watches. You definitely know when you're looking at a Christopher Ward watch, branding aside, which is obviously going to always be the hot point of contention, it seems like, whenever you talk about Christopher Ward watches. But again, I think they provide a tremendous value. I think they have a tremendous quality, so you can definitely get a Christopher Ward watch and be sure that it's going to be something that is going to treat you well. That is why they made this list for me, and I have them at number 3. Number 2 on this list for Next Step watches is definitely going to be Seiko. Now, Seiko always appears on these things because they would be a brand that I would certainly put in the entry-level conversation as well. But they also have a ton of different options in this price range, of course. If you're looking for more of a diver, you can definitely get the Samurai or kind of, start to creep into the Prospex line from them in this price range. If you're looking for something more of an everyday, like a really versatile watch, this is also kind of where the Sarb line sits as well. So the Sarbo 33 is incredibly popular from them, as well as, of course, the Seiko Alpinist. And again, if you want something dressier, you have the Presage line as well, if you want, again, something that's a little bit more formal. The other reason that Seiko makes these lists constantly when people talk about these kind of like this price range of watches is because with Seiko, the movements that they design, which are all in-house, are extremely reliable, extremely robust, and durable. They're going to stand the test of time. They're going to be relatively cheap to service when they do need servicing, so you can rest assured that the watch is just going to work for you. And I think Seiko does a really good job of putting out designs that still feel very contemporary and still feel very modern, but don't look such that they're going to feel like they're dated in several years. I mean, the SKX isn't really in this price range conversation, but that design has been around for like the past 25 years with very minimal changes. You can pick up a Seiko watch today, and it's going to look just as good and just as contemporary in 20 years as it does now. So yeah, Seiko is one of these companies that I always forget the quality that they bring, and then once I get like one of these watches in hand, I'm like, oh, that's right, Seiko's freaking awesome. This list would not be complete without them on the list, and they are my number 2 company when you're looking to take that next step into watches. So number 1, the best company in my opinion if you are looking to take that next step watch. And that is, this company's probably always going to be the undisputed champion in this topic for me, and that is Hamilton. Hamilton just dominates this space, especially if you're looking for a sports watch. The khaki line by itself would have this list covered because you have the different styles, you have field, you have aviation, you have the khaki navy, I think it's called, which is the dive watch line, and then within those lines, you have a ton of different styles, a ton of different watches available, and they all kind of sit around that same price range, that sort of $500 to $1,000 price range. Now, some of the designs are more out there, and they're going to be a little bit more polarizing. Some of them are going to be a little bit more reserved and a little bit more ubiquitous, and they have a lot of different options depending on what you might be looking for. The other great thing that you're getting with Hamilton is you're getting an ETA movement inside the watch, and in a lot of cases, you're getting a little bit of an upgraded ETA movement. For example, my khaki field day date that I have has the H30 Hamilton movement, which is an ETA 2836, but with an upgraded mainspring so that I get 80 hours of power reserve from it. And of course, since it is an ETA movement, it's going to be relatively inexpensive if you ever need it serviced, and that's something to think about as well, especially if you plan on owning the watch for a very, very long time. And when we're talking kind of next step watches, when we're talking in this $500 to $1,000 range, it's just really hard to find a company that gives you as much watch for the price as I feel like Hamilton gives you. And I feel like choosing them for this list might be a little predictable, it might be a little boring. There's a reason why, again, they always get mentioned when you're talking about this. Again, it's a relatively inexpensive entry point. If you want a Swiss-made watch, if you are from the US and you want a watch company that kind of has its roots in American heritage, Hamilton definitely comes through for you in that aspect as well. Again, it would just be impossible for me to have any other watch brand at number one when we're talking on this subject. So again, the company that I think you should most be looking at when you're looking to take that next step in watches and you want to spend between $500 and $1,000, to me, Hamilton is the number one company, the number one brand to check out. So guys, that is my list of the best brands to check out when you're looking to take that next step in watches. I would love to hear some of your guys' thoughts, some of your favorite brands in this $500 to $1,000 price range. Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it informative, do me a favor, hit the like button right there at the bottom. If you're also new to the channel, again, if you enjoy the content, hit the red subscribe button and ring the bell icon so you never miss a new episode that I post. If you want to see more of my watches on a day-to-day basis, head over to Instagram, search for @buddingwatchenthusiast, and click the follow button there as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you all the next time.